Good morning here.
Good morning.
It's the 12th of June. This is Rabbi Levitt, Ezra. Okay, Sefer Ezra. Let's see, we got up to Pasuk Ches. Oh yeah, we had a whole. If we read all these interesting notes over here, they have a whole thing over here about the osios. Okay, so we'll leave that on the side. You can look at it yourself. They say, see an essay on this subject by Rav Nassim Sherman in the appendix to Art Scrolls, The Wisdom in the Hebrew Alphabet. So there you go. That's where it's discussed at more greater length. Okay, so now we're up to Ches. So we go to Roy. Start off the reading.
I haven't got the place. Because
Perik Dalid Pasuk Ches.
Dalid, Perik Dalid Pasuk. That's Daniel I'm looking at. Right. Ches Gimel Dalid. Where's Dalid? Sorry. Dalid Ches. All right. Oh God. That's Dalid. Oh, here it is. Rachum.
Yeah.
Rachum Baal Ta'am V'Shimshei Sofara Katsavo in Igora Chaya Chada Al Yerushalayim La Soti Malko Kanema. Rechum was the secretary, and Shimshai was the scribe. They wrote a letter about Jerusalem to Artaxerxes, the king, as is stated. Are you right there, or continue, or what?
That's good. That's the end of the Pasuk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're still talking about this letter. Okay, so we got all these notes over here. Let's try to go through them, see if there's something that we could weed out over here. This Rachum, they call him. He was the counselor. In other words, he was the one that was brought in, especially because he was going to advise the Samaritans how to proceed in their wish to subvert the rebuilding of the second Beis Hamikdash. But they were not Samaritans themselves. This Rachum and Shimshai, they were just servants of the king. And this Shimshai, he was one of the sons of Haman.
Wow.
Zorer HaYehudim. And you may remember his name in the Megillah, because his name, I believe, appears in the Megillah. He was ascribed to Melech Achashverosh. And he sought to prevent the king from discovering how Mordechai had saved the monarch's life by reporting the plot against him. So that's the whole Gemara over there in Megillah. So he was the scribe. He was the sofer who wrote this letter. And that letter that we're talking about, we already saw in verse 6. It was a letter filled with accusations against the Jewish people and the project to rebuild the second Beis Hamikdash. Okay, so they're explaining how all these different characters get into the story over here. One guy can write the letter and send it, finished. Why do we have all these guys over here for? Mitradach, Tabil, and Rahum and Shimshai. So okay, so each one of them, whatever the story is, they all had a part. So the Meforshim are busy trying to explain what each one of them did, but it's not so. In my opinion, it's not so necessary to get into all of that. But what was it that they were writing over here? Al Yerushalayim. The Rashi says that the letter concerned the construction of the Beis Hamikdash in Yerushalayim. That was the subject. And when it says Al Yerushalayim, it means they were writing a letter of slander and accusation against Yerushalayim. And the Malbim says, oh, he gives a novel explanation of the two letters. Oh, so did he tell us that yet?
I don't think so.
Oh, maybe that was what I skipped over. In other words, verse 6 tells him an accusatory letter written by Midradak Tabil. This verse, our verse here, verse 8, is mentioning about a second letter that was written by Rahum and Shimshai. So there were two letters, in other words, that Ezra is telling us about over here. So the Malbim talks about that there was two letters. That the first letter was composed in Aramaic, and Rahum and Shimshai were hired by the king's translators, and when they rendered the letter into Persian to give to the king, to give to Koresh, who was the one who authorized the Jews and allowed the Jews to go back to Eretz Yisrael and rebuild the second Beis Hamikdash. This is all taking place before the episode of Purim. So in other words, not only did they translate the letter into Persian, but they added a few things that were not in this first letter. And among them was that the accusation that the Jews are rebelling and they're trying to fortify Yerushalayim against the king, and blah blah blah. And so they're dangerous, and so therefore you can understand that it's not a good idea to allow them to continue to do this. That was the so it was more accusatory than it was simply a translation of the first letter. Now, this last word in the pasuk is rather curious, kanema. Now, Art Scrolls translate this word as we will state. Who's the we that it's talking about? We're going to see the actual text of the letter in verse 11. What are they saying over here? The actual text of the letter begins below in verse 11 with the words, your servants. Scripture, though, first identifies all the parties to the letter. Okay. Rav Yeshai Mitrani disagrees with Rashi. He says Kaneima as follows. That's the translation of the word. According to him, the text of the letter begins with the names listed in the next verse, verse 9 and 10. They're not simply a list of those who sent the accusation, but they're the opening words of the letter itself. The correspondents introduced themselves by name to the king. Okay, and the Malbim, the last comment is that Malbim adds that it was a normal protocol when a petition was presented to the king for the names of the king's translators to appear first, followed by a list of petitioners. Thus, the names of Rachum and Shimshai, who they were the translators according to Malbim, the both of them, those names are first, and they're followed by the Midradak Tabil and all of his companions. The letter was in effect signed at the top rather than at the bottom. Okay. Okay, fine. Let's go to the next part. Mayor, would you like to continue?
Okay, so.
Yes, Adayan.
Okay, 1 second. Oh, but I'm confused. My page must have turned backwards. Okay. So now we're on Tet.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Baal Ta'im, the Shimshai, Safra, Ushar, Kenabat Hon, Didayel, V'afar Satchaye, Tarpilae, Afar Saye, Arkivaye, Vav Laye, Shushan Kaye, Dehaye, Emale. Whoa. Okay. So it says, then Rehum the spokesman and Shimshai the scribe and the rest of their cohorts, the Danites, the Apharestatikites, the Tarpolites, the Apharisites, the Archivites, the Babylonians, and the Shushanshites, the Dehites, and the Amalekites. A lot of different peoples there. Okay, so it says Dina the Apharsatkaye, the Dinites and the Apharsakites. This passage lists the names of non-Jewish people whom King Sennacherib had settled in Samaria. They all agreed to the correspondence with the king, according to Rashi. Malbim, following his previously stated view, conjectures that the translators Rehum and Shimshai inserted the names of all the non-Jewish peoples dwelling in the Holy Land, so that the king would be impressed by the universal objection to the restoration of Jerusalem. Beal actually gathered the signatures of the inhabitants of the Samaritan cities, authorized on behalf of Farsites. Okay, these were Persians, Ufrais being Aramaic equivalent of the Hebrew Paras. That's Rashi. According to Rav Yeshaya Mitrani, they were natives of an area called Afares. Okay. Archivai, the Archivites. These were the inhabitants of Erech, which is mentioned in Breshit 10:10. Wow. Shushanvaye, the capital of Rashi. Okay. The Ye, Amaye. Okay, the Shushites and the Dehites, the Elamites. Translation follows Rashi. Malbim, however, renders this as Shushanshites, who are also called Elamites, since the city of Shushan was located in the province of Elam. And see Daniel 8:2.
Mhm.
Wow.
Okay, interesting. So all of these names are meant to impress the king that it's a unanimous view that's been expressed to him here. So many of these people that live in the Holy Land are objecting to the rebuilding of Yerushalayim. Okay. Lou, Pasuk Yud.
Good. You should start. Ushar Uman Hagli As Nafar Rabah Vyakira Beho Save He Mo Bikirya Di Sham Rayin Ushar Avar Nahara Uche Enes. So the translation is, and the rest of the nations whom the great and venerated Asenapar had exiled and settled in the cities of Samaria, along with the rest of the residents of the Trans-Euphrates region and the city of Chineth, wrote this letter. So this letter was written by a lot of people. And the commentary says, and the rest of the nations, they too agreed to the petition, according to Rashi. Asenapa, Rashi, based on the Talmud Sanhedrin, identifies Asenapa and Sennacherib. Pseudos adds that Asenapar was the name by which he was known to the Persians. This is supported by the rabbis, Sanhedrin, who list Asenapar among the scriptural names for Sennacherib. Asenapar / Sennacherib's policy for bringing foreign people to the Holy Land was implemented by his son Esarhaddon. Hence, the latter is referred to above as the king who brought them to Israel, since it was he who actually brought them to. Since he was the king, since he's great and venerated. Rashi cites Isaiah. Thus said the great king, the king of Assyria. The Talmud remarks that this scriptural kerev, asenapar, toward the Holy Land, this evil man, Sennacherib,
Yeah, sort of.
merit the title of great and venerated, because he did not demean the land of Israel, as it is written until Sennacherib, and I bring you, Jewish people, to land like your to a land like your land. Rashi explains that the exile was described as to a land such as yours, but not as a land greater than yours. This question of the Talmud tends to support Rashi's view that the actual text of the letter does not begin until verse 11. Accordingly, the reference to Sennacherib, Asenapar, as great and venerated. However, according to those commentaries, consider the text.
We can't hear all the words you're saying.
You can't hear me?
I don't know. It's sort of some words we hear, and other words there's like a break in the sound.
Yeah, I'm getting messages that my internet is not working too well. Let me move the microphone closer and see if that helps. Is that louder?
Yeah, it's not a matter of loudness, it's a matter of cutting out.
Yeah, it's probably nothing I can do anything about. This reference is a Samaritan description of him, not a scriptural one. Yet the point is still valid. There is no need for scripture to quote this part of the letter and thereby accord honor to this evil man. Apparently, scripture feels that he merited this honor. With the rest of the residents of the Trans-Euphrates, Israel is referenced to by the Persians as the Trans-Euphrates territory. The Euphrates River separated Israel from Babylonia. Thus, in relation to Babylonia, the Holy Land lay beyond the river, and those who settled there were known as the dwellers of Trans-Euphrates. The letter stated that the accusation was endorsed not only by those brought by Asenapar, but by all the peoples of the Trans-Euphrates. And the city of Chineth was the name of yet another people, Ibn Ezra, who agreed to send the letter to the king, according to Rashi. Matsudos adds that Chineth was a large city centrally located among the non-Jewish peoples of Samaria. Ralbag renders this, whom Asenath he settled the cities of Samaria, the rest of Euphrates territory, and Chinath. Alternatively, Radak and Rabbi Yoshua Miturani contend that Ke'anes is derived from the word Ke'es, at the time. The time or date of the dispatch is recorded at this point in the letter. Scripture, however, does not merely Uchenes. That's it.
Okay, Pasuk Yud Aleph.
Okay, let's see. Dinar Pashegen Igarta Di Shlahu Alohi Al Artaxista, no, not Shista, Shist, Macha, Adach, Enash, Avar, Nahara, Ukeenet. Okay, so this is the text of the letter that they dispatched to him, to King Artaxerxes, it'd be easier to read the Aramaic. Okay. Anyway, Parshegan Igarta, the text of the letter. The translation follows Rashi, who equates the word with Patshegan from Esther. Ibn Ezra, however, translates the essence of the letter.
Oh yeah, this word Paschegen is appears in Megillus Esther as a letter. So here it's the word is Parshegen, and Rashi equates the two words. Both of them refer to a letter.
Oh, okay.
That's all he's saying here.
Okay, so Argarta, the leather.
Igarta.
Igarta, maybe
Oh,
singular, plural. According to Rashi, only one letter was sent by Mitradabil, Rahum, and Shimshai. The translation reads, "This is the text of the letter." Okay, I guess the same word could be plural or singular. In Rabbi Yeshaya Trani's opinion, however, two letters were written to the king, one by Miridath Tabio, and the second by Rahum and Shimshai. Accordingly, our verse reads, "This is the text of the letters." The following passages provide the essential context of both letters. Avdak, maybe Avdik, from your servants. This is the opening phrase of the letter, introducing all the non-Jewish inhabitants of the Holy Land as the petitioners. That's Rashi. The letter actually began in verse 9, with the listing of the signatory begins in this verse. Therefore, the phrase, "your servants, the people of Trans-Euphrates and Chineth," is repeated. And Enash, the people, literally person, although the word Enash is noun, Rabbi Shaya Mitrane, compared to Genesis chapter 32, I've acquired an oxen, literally an ox, okay, and donkeys, a donkey. Avar, Nahara, Ukinet, the Trans-Euphrates and Chineth. This phrase includes, in short from Abim, all the peoples listed above, verses 9 and 10. And that's Rashi.
Okay. We have time for Yud base? No. Okay, so we got up to Yud base.
Okay.
Very well. Okay, we guess we're going to get to the letters soon after having waded through all the details. The notes over here. We'll get to the substance next time in Pasuk Yud Beis, Bezrat Hashem.
Very good. Shkoyach.
Shkoyach.
See you
Very nice.
in a little while.
A good day to Mayor and a good Shabbos if we don't see you tomorrow.
Yes. Have a good day and